Alright, welcome back to the Blender 3 Docwalk. This video we will be covering the tool system document. This is the last section of the user interface, I guess, chapter. So yeah, let's jump right in. Okay, so this is a general overview of the tool system. We're not going to go into any specific tool, in depth. Each tool has its own document, and we will go over them later as we get through the documentation. But just so you know, this is a kind of general overview of the tooling system. So first thing, there can only be one active tool per workspace and mode. What that means is I have a 3D viewport here. I also have a 3D viewport in my shading workspace. Okay, I'm gonna tap T to bring my tools out here. Oh, come on, there we go. All right, now I'm gonna go back to layout, and I'm gonna select my annotation tool. Make a scribble really quick. I'm gonna go over to shading. I'm gonna go back to shading, and my scribble's there, but my annotation tool is not selected. I still have my selection tool selected. Now let's, just to really accentuate this point, I'm going to select this gizmo here, select my cube there. I've got the, it's kind of my transform tool here, right? I can do all transformations, rotations, skewing, resizing, all of that. Now I'm going to jump back over. Remember my transform tool is selected. I'm going to jump back to layout, and my annotation tool is still selected over here. So that's what that means. So for every workspace and mode, modes are like object mode, edit mode, sculpt mode. For every workspace and mode, there is only one selected tool. Okay, now typically each tool uses the left mouse button to activate, right? So I'm using my left mouse button to click around, and that is pretty typical across most tools. That's how you use the tool, you left mouse button, right? Well, if we head up to edit, come down to preferences. Okay, so if we come down here to key map, you'll notice we've got this kind of setup here. If you want to change how a tool is activated, you can come down here and fish for it under what circumstances and what editor. The key map can get really complicated, just so you know. I would recommend really understanding what you're doing before you start changing things in your key map. This top area is okay to mess around with, but the first thing we want to look at here is the Alt-Click Tool prompt. Okay, so I'm gonna turn that on, and I'll show you what it does. We're gonna jump down here. Now that I'm in my 3D viewport, if I tap Alt, I want you to watch down here. This area is our status bar. Okay, so watch down here what happens now that I've toggled that option on. I'm going to go up to my 3D viewport, and I'm going to tap the Alt button. Oops, I'm going to tap my Alt button. Okay, now you can see that I've got a whole selection of tools that I can just call simply by tapping a shortcut. So if I want to use my select box, I'll just hit B, and now my select box has been activated. Again, that's just tapping the Alt button. You get that whole selection, immediate tool selection with a single tap. Okay, so let's talk about our toolbar just for a second. So this displays all the tools that you can that are available to use in your current mode, in your current workspace, right? So if I were to change my mode, I'm in object mode right now. If I hit tab to go to edit mode, you can see that my the available tools expands, because when you're in edit mode, you have a different set of tools available to you. So I'm going to go back to object mode and show you a couple things with the toolbar here. You'll notice if I kind of get close to my toolbar, I get that double arrow, right? I can click and drag out to give myself 2 columns. If I go further, if I drag further, I actually present the tools with their names like that. So pretty cool if you want to, have, I guess, a little bit more information available to you at any one time concerning the available tools. The next thing is when you hover over your tools in your toolbar, you will first have your first pop-up will be the name of the tool. The second pop-up will be a little bit more information about what the tool does and the available shortcuts that you can use to activate that tool. So the transition is pretty quick here. So okay, because I have my names showing, I'm going to drag it back in here to where they're not showing. Okay, now I'm going to hover over Annotate. So it says Annotate, and then quickly after that, it tells me what it does, really short summary, and then how to get there. So the shortcut is Shift Spacebar D. So if I'm just over here, I hold down Shift, tap Spacebar, this menu comes up, and you can see that D right here is Annotate. So if I want to use my annotation tool here, I just tap D, and now I've activated my annotation tool. Now you'll notice that some of these tools, I'm going to tap that guy really quick, have a little kind of, you see this little triangle in the bottom of the tool, there. If I hold my left mouse button down, click the tool and hold the left mouse button down instead of just clicking it to select it. So I'm going to click and hold the tool down, and now you see it expands into two different tools of the tool type scale. So, okay, so if I hold my, hover over here, it says scale, hold my left mouse button down, and I have scale and scale cage. They both perform scaling operations, but they're just slightly different. Same with my add tool here. I can add a cube, add a cone, cylinder, UV sphere, icosphere. For annotation, if I click and hold, you'll see there's 4 different annotating tools here. I've got line, polygon, eraser. Okay, so not just tools that you can see. These are, I guess, when you see this little triangle, it represents it that is a kind of category of tools. And if you want to kind of see what other sort of sub tools are of that category, you just click and hold until you decide what you want to use. If we want to use cage, then I release my left mouse button, and I now have activated that. Okay, so the toolbar is just T, brings out the toolbar. Now the pop-up toolbar, we just kind of showed this just a second ago, is Shift Spacebar. So hold Shift down, tap Spacebar, and you get this pop-up toolbar. Now, if you jump up to Preferences, okay, right here you have Spacebar Action. Remember, I like it at play, but if you select Tools, that negates the need to hold Shift down. Okay, so if I select Tools, I'm going to just move this off the screen really quick. Select Tools. Now I can just hit Spacebar, okay, and that comes up. So you can kind of use it like a modifier key when you're in your 3D viewport. So I just hit Spacebar and then G for move. Okay, hit Spacebar and T for transform. So you don't have to, if you get these in your mind, it's just going to be like Spacebar G. Okay, so you just know what you want next. So it's kind of like a modifier. I wouldn't go as far as to say that it is, but it kind of acts like it. The one that kind of makes it more not is that your cursor here is the spacebar itself. So you hit spacebar to bring up the tool menu's option, or your tool pop-up toolbar here, and then the cursor, okay, is spacebar itself. So you'd have to tap it twice like that. Okay, so I'm gonna change this back to play, and let's talk about quick favorites. Okay, I'm going to reselect my selection tool here. All right, now the quick favorites shortcut is simply accessed by tapping Q on the keyboard. Now, this is a special install that I use for these tutorials, but let's add a few things to our quick favorites menu. So I'm going to right click on this guy and I'm going to add to quick favorites. I'm going to right click on annotate, add to quick favorites, and let's jump over here and add that to quick favorites. Okay, so now when I hit Q, whatever is available in whatever mode I'm in will show up, and I can select it and use it as I please. Okay, now I'm going to get rid of this this annotation here. Just get rid of the squiggles really quick. This kind of looks a little messy. All right, now we're going to talk about the fallback tool and how this works. So the way you select what your fallback tool is, first of all, if we look up here, our upper, the very first tool in our toolbox is typically your fallback tool. Okay, but the way you select what your fallback tool actually is, I'm just going to get something else going here real quick, is holding Alt down and tapping W. This pie menu comes up, and you'll recognize some of these as being tools in your select menu when you hold down. Well, when you hold this down, right, when I'm holding my left mouse button down over that, I have these 4 selections. Okay, typically it's preset at select box. So let me show you kind of how this works. So if I hold Alt down and tap W, this comes up, and this allows me to select what I want to be for my default, for my fallback tool. Okay, so if I select active tool, that means that whatever tool I'm at, whichever tool I'm using, that the drag action, when I drag something, that's the tool that is going to perform the drag action, or the fallback drag action, provided the tool that I have selected doesn't have an innate drag action. So with this tool, if I click and drag, nothing's going to happen. Okay, that's because I've got my default tool, or I've got my fallback tool set to active tool. And since that is my active tool and it does not have a default drag action, nothing's happening. So if I switch to select box as my default tool, or I keep saying that, as my fallback tool, and I drag, I'm just going to click and drag across the scene here. Well, you'll notice now that I haven't let go yet, but you'll notice now that my square selection box has been drawn across the screen, including my camera, my light source, and my cube. So now when I let go, however, now this is where it's a little different. Now it's selected all of them and activated my gizmo. Okay, so I can translate them and rotate them and stretch them. Okay, so that's what that does. So if I set my fallback tool to Lasso, okay, even though I've got this selected, I'm gonna do that, and I still have that tool. It's just been used. You see how that works? It uses my fallback tool as the selection mechanism to kind of, I guess, imprint the current tool on top of, if that makes sense. You get what I'm trying to say, right? So yeah, so whatever I want to use for my fallback tool, Alt W brings up this pie menu, and then I can select whatever. The select box is typically the default option there, but you can change it as needed, really. Okay, now you can also cycle through certain tools. For example, in the 3D viewport, if I hit W, you'll notice that my selection tools up here are cycling every time I hit W. So I've got my box select, my circle select, and then my lasso select, and then my my tweak tool. The reason W works here is because it's been set in preferences. So let me quickly show you what that looks like, so you know. For instance, it doesn't work with this. Well, Okay, hold on a second. Here, let me hover over there, and you can see the information it brings up. It's a select box, and my shortcut is Shift Spacebar B, and then there's the shortcut cycle W. That's why it's included in the cycle. Okay, every time I hit W, I'm cycling through everything that's in here. All right. Now let me pull up preferences and show you what that looks like. I'm going to go up and I am going to search for the key binding. Okay, W. Now you can see that it includes everything W, so Alt W, Shift W, but I'm looking for the ones with that are just activated with tapping W. Now this is in Sculpt, so I want to look for something in the 3D viewport, which is right here. Okay, and you can see that it's activated by just tapping W. Well, if I look over here, it's Set Tool by Name, and then if I open this up, you can see that Cycle is selected here. So now I can look further. I've got the same sort of a situation in UV Editor, and of course it's also Cycle is also selected, but this built-in .select box with Cycle selected, Set Tool by Name, that's the cycle. That's how you turn Cycle on and off. So do what you want with that. You can set other tool collections to cycle with other shortcuts if you want, but that's totally up to you and your preferences. So I'm gonna close that up. Okay, now the last thing that we really need to talk about are tool properties. Now each tool, well, most tools have a set of properties and available things that you can alter about them and behaviors and such. So the first place I want to show you is, well, let's grab our select box. This is the tool settings region right here. Okay, and you can see that we have a few different options up here. These are just different selection modes that you can select. You can also find these in the sidebar. I'm going to tap N to pop open my sidebar here, and the second tab down is Tool, and you can see that I've got Active Tool here, and I have my options here, and a couple other things here. There's a few different ways to tweak your tool to get it to work the way that you want it, or alter it for different reasons and different situations. And there's one more place, is your Active Tools, your tool tab up here in Properties, and this has you can see several of the same options over here as you can see up here. This is a little bit more detailed, a little bit more in depth than our tool settings region up here, but yeah. So that is it for the general tool system. As always, thank you for watching. I will see you guys in the next video. Please like, subscribe, and share this with anybody that you think it might help. It will help the channel gain momentum and get moving a little faster. So thanks again. I'll see you in the next video.